that are currently experiencing symptoms of the virus recover fully, all right, and that there is no further transmission. But good morning, Dr. Prophet. How are you?
Good morning to you. Good morning to your viewers and listeners.
All right. So tell us a little bit about your portfolio, first of all, and what we are here to
Well, my
discuss.
portfolio is not my usual portfolio. My usual portfolio is as a gastroenterologist. But today, given my background, especially in public health and health generally in many areas, I'm here to discuss the issues surrounding COVID-19 as respect to, especially going obviously our island, and to share with the folk what I know of what is going on, because I sit on a cabinet subcommittee, and it's a broad-based subcommittee in the sense of having both ministers and one or two people who are not ministers, and we've been meeting daily now for about a month, and sometimes twice a day, sometimes all day, trying to put all the bits and pieces in motion, and it's quite an exercise, trust me. But
Wow.
anyhow, the committee is there, the government is there, and everyone is trying their best to see what we can do to stay on top of the situation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, as you said, you guys are meeting, whether it's once, and you guys meet every day, but whether
day.
it's once a day or twice a day, just to make sure that you guys are on top of the situation and that you guys have taken everything into consideration.
Because you would be surprised in number. This is a new experience. No one in would have had a memory or institutional memory of an experience like this, because we haven't had a pandemic of this nature since 1918. Right, and nobody. 1918. The few people who will be alive probably might have, but they wouldn't have remembered in any event. They would have been so young.
So young, yeah. So it really is a troubling situation for everybody. I know that there are a lot of people concerned, because even me myself, I'm very concerned. I'm not worried, but of course I am concerned, as everybody should be, and of course we would hope that with the level of concern that a lot of people exhibit, that they would be more compliant to the rules and the regulations that have been put in place, not just to keep us at bay, but to actually protect us and to protect our well-being.
So I'm glad you started on that note, because the question of social distancing, forget that word. You know what it really saying? Nobody is to come 6 feet within you.
Yeah.
If you're in the center of a circle, nobody should be you at the central point of that circle. Nobody should be within a radius of 6 feet of you, back or front.
Right.
Now, it isn't always possible to maintain that, but certainly it should not be less than 3 feet or so. And 6 feet is what we're aiming to have everybody distant. So it's a totally new dispensation. We are accustomed passing each other. I passed a lady in the mall yesterday morning, and I was about 6 feet from her, and normally I would have gone across and we would have exchanged greetings, and I can tell that she felt it, I felt it too, and it's something that we just have to get used to over upcoming months, and the quicker we get used to it, the better for us all, because if I'm carrying the virus, I then limit the chances of spreading it to the person next to me. And here's the difficulty. This bug is a very unusual and a very threatening bug, because normally you get the flu and within a few days you're done, and you have the flu, muscle aches, perhaps a bit of congestion, upper respiratory tract congestion, etc., and you're done, and fever, and you're done. But this, before you get those symptoms, or perhaps you might have had them just mild, and then you start to feel better, and you're starting to shed the virus.
Right.
And it is clear that people can transmit during that period, during the incubation period. To what extent, I've not seen it qualified, but it doesn't really matter once we know it is happening during that that certainly a week span or so, right? And the incubation period is longer than that. It's actually 14 days.
Right.
But certainly during that last week's span, a week before you actually come down and feel really ill, for some period of that time, you will be transmitting the virus. So you're going around doing your normal business, and if perchance you were hugging up people, the people you're hugging up are embracing, etc., I think. So one of the things that surprises me is that I still not seeing, I would like to see much more sensitivity towards is seeing people much more cognizant of that.
Right.
Asking people, you're a little close to me. I love you, but you're a little close to me.
A little close, yeah.
Right. The only person you can, obviously your partner who you're in bed with, it doesn't matter, you go closer.
Right.
Even your children, if you live in the household with your children and your children being away from school for 2 weeks, you can hug them once you're not going out to bring anything into them. So it's all types of dimensions. Yeah.
It is. And it's a difficult situation because every day before I leave home, my kids would say to me, Mommy, please, we begging you, because we home safe. So you practice what you're supposed to practice.
That's right.
So that we could remain safe. And it's difficult.
Yeah. And mark you, if having said that, if the kids do come down with it, in the overwhelming majority of cases, they may not even be too symptomatic, and they're going to recover and do well. Having said that, up to 3 weeks ago, I was telling groups that I talked to that for young people, don't expect to have any significant effects. The majority, 1 or 2 may come down with symptoms, but the percentage will be much less than the older people. That remains true. But what we have seen as the epidemic has moved into Europe in a big way and the United States is that a higher percentage of young people than we got out of China are coming down with symptoms and being quite ill. A higher percentage than in those countries. So for whatever reason, which we don't know, and perhaps it could be a statistical fact that certain statistics don't match in the way they were taken, etc.
Right.
But whatever it is, that's the situation.
Is it possible that it could be the environment as well? The change in environment that would contribute to them being...
I doubt it much, because if anything, it was being said, and I didn't believe that from the beginning, that the warmer climate would kill the bug. No,
Right.
the warmer climate doesn't kill the flu bug. And this is not the flu bug, but a flu virus. But I don't think that has much to do with it. It might be more a question of how statistics were gathered.
Right. Now, what about children? And this is my concern because my son is asthmatic. And I'm wondering, what about children? And I know that the statistics have shown that children are, if they do experience symptoms, it would be mild. What about children who have underlying conditions as well?
Well, anyone, irrespective of whether a child or not, who has underlying conditions, then they have to be doubly careful. They have to be doubly careful. I know in the case of many ministries, in the public service generally, that the people who were on cancer treatment, people who had who have severe some underlying problem, they were sent home from early. They have been working from home as far as possible now for many days. Yeah. So that was a great decision. The more vulnerable you are, the more you have to be protected.
The more you have to be protected. So, because I've noticed even yesterday, the businesses, they are practicing the social distancing in terms of how many people they allow into the building. But what tends to be the problem is the people that gather on the outside of the building awaiting their opportunity to go inside.
Right. That is where we're now calling for for 2 things, really. One, for the businesses, because these are often, in our context, big businesses. They need to provide security on the outside as well as the building to ensure, that's in my opinion, I'm not saying that this is being laid down by government, but in my opinion, they need to provide security on the outside of the building to ensure that people stand up a distance away from each other. right, 6 feet away from each other as a cue to get inside. And the other message it sends, two other messages it sends really, to those people on the outside, it should be saying to them, we want them to be conscious of the fact you can't just intermingle as you normally do, like normal. I saw a clip of it on television last night outside a business establishment, and so if those folk were sensitive to the fact that that should not be congregating that tightly, in such close proximity to each other, then they would have distanced themselves from that setup. And the other thing is that another message it sends is that lots of us have got into the habit of relying on picking up a fast food.
Yeah.
Right? Well, for some months, it will be more appropriate to be preparing your own stuff at home, because you don't have to go in a crowded place. The least you have to leave your home, the better for you. If you have nobody at home with it, then you leave your home only to do essentials. You leave your home to go perhaps and get some money, and if that's the case, you go to the ATM, and hopefully people there observing the 6-foot rule. Then you leave your home to go and you pick up your essential supplies, your food stuff. You're not going to shop for other things. You're shopping for your food stuff and any other materials that are necessary for you to keep your household, absolutely necessary for you to keep your household going. And the rest of the time, in-house. As far as shops are concerned, and we know there are a lot of shops with bars. Well, we're asking the shopkeepers to be responsible. If they're not responsible, then they will be mandated to comply. Right? You have your shop, and if somebody comes and wants to buy alcohol, of course I'm not going to sit here and advise people to be drinking a lot of alcohol, because drinking lots of alcohol is not going to kill the bug. You're just going to get it sick, and when you get it sick, your level of health services would have shrunk, because a core of people who normally are in the forefront of disease, of helping people when they get ill, a core of them have been directed to look after and put on standby to look after patients with who come in with COVID. That's one. Many of the outpatient clinics and whatnot have been reduced significantly, and in some settings you might even have to clear wards, etc. Right. So the room space is going. The ability for normal levels of care is going to be reduced. So you try to keep yourself in best order, and drinking a lot of rum and sitting down and trying to drink a flask of whites is not going to be doing it. But anyhow, individuals will make their own decision. But what we would want the shopkeepers to do is that bar section of their shop is closed. We know and we understand that it is very important socially, very, very important socially for people normally to get together, to play the dominoes, to play the cards, to have a good laugh. That's so important for human life. But for the next few weeks, and I suggest to them perhaps months, they will not be able to be doing that, right? They just have to move themselves to their home, come purchase what they need from the shop, back to their homes, and be able to. People will find creative ways of engaging themselves, ways that they didn't realize, things that they hadn't done for years, and interactions that they hadn't had with the family for years. They will sit down and be able to enjoy. You'll be able to sit down and teach your grandson how to play all fours, or all kinds of things. Yeah. Right?
And this is a conversation that we have been having.
Grandchild, not grandchild, granddaughter, grandson, granddaughter.
It's a conversation that we've been having here from the very beginning, that preparedness is not necessarily just about washing your hands and sanitizing and not touching your face, but it has to do with the long-term effects, as we are seeing now, where we have to practice more stringent means of social distancing and what that is going to entail, and how you are preparing yourself not just physically but mentally as well for that kind of measure, you know, because a lot of people are not accustomed to being home at 7 o'clock, or what am I going to do from 7 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the morning, you know. There are a lot of people who are accustomed to being very social.
I tell you one, you know, there are things that developments have gone on in the world that are negative, but one of the positive, and even within the IT world, there is the coming and being of mobile phones and things like that. That's had a lot of negative repercussions. But here's one of the positive ones. You can sit on your phone, and you can, for most people, once you have you're connected. What it will be important for many people now, as many people can afford it. Of course, you look after your health and your food, but after that, you ain't gonna need very much because you're not going out very much.
Yeah.
So try to get hold, and I'm sure the two companies will do the best to make access to data and things like that. Perhaps more affordable. I'm sure that they've thought of that already, or if they haven't thought of it, we encourage them to do that. Make it more affordable, because people sit at their home and they can read, but not to go and read nonsense crap.
And
right?
to cause...
Right. You can go online and you can get a whole host of things. You can go to MSN, you can go to Yahoo, where you usually get reliable information. Of course, you look at who's writing the article. That's very important.
Yeah.
You can get what is happening in CNN, what's happening on BBC, what is happening in news networks in Canada, Australia. You can pick up all these things just by typing them in and Googling them, and you can sit and you can watch some degree of videos and movies from online. So there are a lot of things you can do now with that little mobile phone.
Absolutely, and it's really a good suggestion that the two companies put their heads together and figure out a way where more people can have access to data and to the internet, and not just for social means, but we have a lot of children who actually need that access now more than ever.
More than ever.
So it really is a good suggestion for them to think about. I mean, it also goes to show...
But they are doing some things. I'm not sure the details, but I'm sure they will make them available. And it's just an encouragement on my part to do as much as at all possible, because they become a key, very, very key in the community. Because if a chance your networks go down, then people are real dizzy.
Yeah, they're basically an essential service right now.
Yeah. Pretty close on it. Pretty close. Actually, that aspect of their services is exempted under the regulations.
Right. Great. Now, I know a lot of people are clamoring to understand or to get insight on Case Zero. And what's happening with her family in terms of isolation and so on. Would you be able to give us any insight on what's happening there?
Yeah, I don't have the details of Casey or where her status is. I'd heard that her condition had worsened a bit. I'm not even sure of that, because that's not. I'm concerned about it. But my concern about any individual's health, and that individual's health as well. But what the picture we've been looking at is the broader picture of how to make sure that the access to care is going to be smooth for that person, and the family concerned, etc. What was your specific question?
So persons have been asking in terms of isolation, and how are we ensuring that these people follow the rules?
Right. Okay, that's. I know. I was listening to a radio station this morning, and that was a person called in, and they were very concerned about that. What I would want to reassure the public is that that is the individuals who have been found to be positive have been isolated in their quarters. Of course, the question comes about, how can we be sure that they're not moving around in circulation. We do know that there was limited circulation. I would say limited circulation before of a few of them before their diagnosis was made.
Right.
But once that diagnosis was made, and even before it was made, before the results came back, they would have been mandated to stay in the household. And I can also go as far as to assure the public that that is being monitored.
It's being monitored.
I don't want to say anything further, but it is being monitored.
And I understand. I would understand the reason for, a lot of people call it secrecy, but I would call it caution.
Yeah.
On our part, because I would use Trinidad as an example. When the individuals from the cruise ship came, when they took them off the cruise ship and they were transporting them to the quarantine center, when they were passing through that village, there were persons on the road with cameras and lined up in the streets. And
I mean, we can become, as human beings, we can become very insensitive. Because let me tell you something. Any and every one of us is at risk.
Yeah.
People realize that. This morning, Boris Johnson, Prime Minister of Britain, the Health Secretary of Britain, the heir apparent in Britain, Prince Charles, they all have the COVID virus, right? And celebrities all around the world, people, it is no respect of class, it's no respect of level in society, of race, of anything. Any and every human being can be affected. So if you, and you don't know when you may acquire it.
Yeah.
And so would you like, if you acquire it, for people to be throwing insults at you or perhaps even trying to harm you in some ways, right? This is not a disorder that even it could be said that somebody did some foolish things in most instances. When it is foolish, when it becomes foolish, is if I leave and I go to a party, as I was hearing on a radio station, I was coming here, if I have a party, a cook-up down by the river, and I invite all of my friends to come over, that is when I'm being foolish.
Yeah.
Right? When I'm trying to gather people together, because you see what is happening at funerals. All funerals are private, basically. 10 people, and then the funeral home personnel, etc., and the priest, and that's it. And that's immediate. That is so different to how, and even that is very difficult to deal with, because people get such a sense of ease of that, it's not so much stress, but the loss. There's an ease of the loss when they can sit in a church and there's a reflection on the life and times of the person who might have done so much good in their time. Now, you anyone who dies, you don't have a chance to do that.
Yeah.
So it's a totally new dispensation that we are feeling. We as a people have to be sensitive to that, and to ensure that we keep a calm disposition about it, be understanding, have confidence. Yeah. I know often people don't have confidence, but one thing I can tell you, I'm sitting in that group, the subcommittee appointed by Cabinet, and I, for one, would not be associated with it. And I think that goes for every member of the group. If we had to be hiding facts from people about when I heard yesterday, it was being much touted that we said we knew from beginning that the government was hiding the facts, that we came up with one case on Sunday, and now they come up with these others. Well, the reality is the specimens are sent from here to Trinidad. First of all, as you know, LIAT is not flying. Normally you would get LIAT to fly down every day. There are 2-3 flights into Trinidad. The tests are only being done in Trinidad. So the regional security system had to send a plane through here that picked them up, took them down to Trinidad. Then the assessment there takes 3-4 days to get that result. So that process can be a much longer, and that's why you would find that there is a delay. What also is true is that you could have anticipated that at least a few, and we anticipated that a few people in the household would have been affected because they were showing symptoms, right? They were showing symptoms from very early of at the time that the index person or the person who was first discovered was positive. They started or shortly thereafter, I'm not sure the exact time frame, thereafter they started to show symptoms.
Mm-hmm. So I want to ask, because I know this is a touchy subject for a lot of people, and some of the things that you say, you have to be careful in how you say it, not because you're trying to withhold information, but you are trying to be sensitive to people's feelings and how people respond in this time, because people respond differently. Right now, there are a lot of people who are calm about the situation, who are level-headed, and there are other people who are very emotional about the situation. And you kind of have to tailor your responses to ensure that you aren't frightening or offending or scaring really anyone. But I think this is something that we need to talk about, and it relates to the length of time in which we have to look at this, because and this is my analysis. When we look at the virus, when we look at the science of this virus and any virus, it's very difficult for you to get the same strain of a virus twice, right? Is it the case? Is that the case with the coronavirus? And if that is so, are we in a better place having less cases than if more people built an immunity towards it? Because then it means that if we have less cases and we open up to the world again, because at some point we must open again to the world, we can't remain closed forever, the virus will still be around, right? There will always be a carrier somewhere. And if that is the case, would it mean that we now open ourselves to a potential outbreak at any point in time?
Okay, that's a very, very important point you're raising. Going back to the British experience of 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, the very Prime Minister of Britain, Boris Johnson, was talking about thinking in that kind of terms. Let a significant, even if it wasn't expressed, that was the thought behind what something, a medical term they use called herd immunity, which we won't go into. But suffice it to say, what they say is try and let a lot of people in the community get exposed to this, and then the chances are if somebody has it, the rest, like for instance, well, I suppose I can give a practical example. Let's say we have 96% vaccination coverage. That means that the overwhelming majority of people are protected against measles because they get a measles vaccination, right? And they can't enter school. Now, there might be 1 or 2 people who resist, who try to do homeschooling with their child because they can't send their child to school unless they're immunized. And what will happen? If somebody comes into the community who has measles, like come from one of the communities in the States that they've really had the outbreak, and that measles, the people in the community, they will not spread because everybody in the community has built up a lifelong tolerance to exposure to the measles. It will not come back. The body will recognize that I have seen this virus before. I know how to deal with you, right? And so the few who were not protected will remain symptom-free, because unless they're unlucky and happen to be right beside that person, they won't have to worry about it being transmitted through other people and getting to them.
Right.
That's what you call herd immunity. And so Britain was thinking along that line, and I don't understand how come, until about 2-3 weeks ago, when they changed sharp and bit by bit to put on the schools, and now they put on the schools maximally. So, no, we cannot go with that type of thinking, because we have to try to keep ourselves distant from that virus. And there's another very important reason why that is so. This virus is not the flu.
Right.
It is not the flu for many people. For some people, it will be just like the flu. Mostly young people and kids, etc. It will be just like a flu, or perhaps not much, some symptoms, and the recovery to do well. But this virus, if it decides to really hit you, it is hitting you to the point where the normal flu may give you a pneumonia. And the doctor will give you some antibiotics. You stay at home and you recover. But this beast is different.
Right.
It doesn't just, it gives pneumonia, but the type of pneumonia is given, it often propels you into respiratory failure. You fail to be able to get enough oxygen into your system because all the linings of your lungs become congested.
Right.
You can't get enough oxygen, even if you're given it by nasal mask. And then people have to be ventilated. Right? And a percentage of people who go on to that level we won't be able to recover. There's no clear cut. I was hoping over the last week that a medication, that hydroxychloroquine, would be partially the answer. But now I've seen other reports which suggest no, it's not probably. I'm still keeping an open mind about it. Right? But there's no clear cut antiviral treatment for it. And that's another long story. We'll see if I have time, I'm going to, because it speaks to, there must be lessons that must be learned by the world as a result of this experience. The world had a chance. I'm going to go into it now because for the young people especially, it's important for them to help shape the world in the right way of thinking. You know what happened? After the SARS in 2002, 2003, up to last night, I sat up till late in the morning because I wanted to catch this Dr. Hasseltine. I might have his pronunciation of his name wrong. Former head of Harvard, a professor, head of some division, a medical division in Harvard, and he went over to China. He was in Wuhan in recent weeks. And he said, he was on the cutting edge of research into various drugs. They actually had the number of substances they have found which were going to inhibit this virus, the cousin virus, SARS. But SARS came and it did not spread throughout the community. It died out. And nobody was there to put the money into it.
Right.
Nobody was there to put the money into it. And that's a major failure on the part of, especially the bigger countries. This is a failure in the capitalist system, and the weakness, a major weakness in the capitalist system. Here it is, you saw you have this virus, you know there's a potential for similar viruses, and nobody is going to expand it up, because if you're going to put money into it, there's nothing, no company is going to be able to make profit from it because the virus wasn't around. So that is why we are partially where we are today.
Right.
We are now dependent upon the vaccine, and even the vaccine. I've read other reports, seemingly reputable reports, where they were pretty close. People had wanted trials of vaccines to start against the SARS. Again, no money. Yeah. And if you had those vaccines, they would probably have to tweak it in small ways, and they might be able to wrap up the process, to step up the process quickly. And whereas it's going to take at least a year for us to have a vaccine, which is the ultimate answer for this problem. Mm-hmm. So what we are hoping we can do right now is take the country and any little pockets that we find of the virus, keep these people quarantined until they heal themselves, hopefully, right? Or if they have to be hospitalized, we hospitalize them, hopefully, with some treatment to recover and do well. Mm-hmm. But that having been completed, if 3 weeks from now we don't have a single, for 2 weeks, or let's say a month from now, for 2 weeks we hadn't found a new case, no new persons coming up, the chances of us having the virus here in anybody will be significantly reduced. That doesn't mean it can be lingering somewhere, significantly reduced. But here what? From the time you open up your borders and people start to come, the usual trade movement of peoples,
You expose yourself again.
you expose yourself again. So
Yeah.
I say that so that people get a concept, an understanding of what we face.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a short-term problem. So, people have to start to get themselves mentally adjusted to that. That's my opinion anyhow. And you have to get themselves mentally adjusted to it and start to adapt accordingly.
Right.
What is one of the important adaptations? You know what it is?
Well, the social distancing.
Well, no, adapt in a broader sense. Not now from a health point of view. Planting. Planting.
Yeah.
Those who have never planted in their life, look to plant, hopefully we get some good weather, and if we can plant and have enough food here to sustain ourselves through, and there will be, I am pretty sure that there's going to be some stuff is government has made sure to allow cargo to come in, but 9 chances out of 10 other countries are affected, some severely,
Yeah.
and so some of your produce is not going to come through in the way that it did before.
But I had a conversation with a gentleman the other night, and we spoke specifically to community agriculture and not just relying on, because a lot of people feel like the agriculture sector in the country depends solely on the Ministry of Agriculture and the lead farmers, and it really doesn't. It's about all of us taking ownership for the fact that we need to be able to sustain ourselves. So, for example, a household not being dependent on going to the supermarket to survive, but or solely dependent, I should say, on going to the supermarket to survive, because there are things that you are not going to be able to supply for yourself that you would need others to supply for you. But the vast majority of the food that we consume, in most cases, we should be able to sustain it ourselves.
Absolutely, and we are blessed that we have a soil here that, well, you don't have to plant things sometimes. And I cut down a lovely breadfruit tree, man, and some tree or so shoots have come up from it. As though it says, I cut it down because it was destroying a retaining wall, and other shoots have come up from it over the years.
Yeah,
Huh?
we're lucky in that aspect. I mean,
And I did nothing. To the area.
But it's a conversation that we need to start, and I like the fact that you said we have to think about the long-term effects of this and how long it's gonna last, because it is true. It is, if we sit and we think about it, it is a fact. Even though we didn't have a single case of the virus in Grenada, we cannot keep our borders closed forever. We can't close people out forever.
Yeah.
At some time, at some point, we will need to open up to the world again. And then as that happens, even though there isn't an outbreak in any part of the world, there is still a risk, there is still a chance.
Yeah. And so, we will have to play it week by week, month by month. But the reality is that vaccination is going to be the answer for, and I am sure that a lot of people who have a lot of concerns about vaccination go and rush and get this one when it becomes available. And when it becomes available, unfortunately, it will probably take a month or two before it reaches down here. A significant amount. So all of that has to be put in the equation. So the tremendous number of things. Government obviously is looking to see how they can make sure that funds are released to help unemployed and households who don't find themselves. I mean, the whole tourism industry is closed down.
Right.
The whole tourism the tourism industry is closed down. Your educational tourism industry is closed down. In that SGU is gone.
Yeah.
I am no economist. I don't know exactly what percentage of the GDP that represents, but it is a significant.
Yeah.
Well, at least the folk at SGU, SGU is guaranteed them to continue their pay, so that's great. But the folk in the hotel sector, I suppose in one or two cases there might be some mechanisms for them to get some sort of allowances, but by and large, the majority of those folk are going to be home. Yeah. So it's going to test our resolve, but if we approach it in an open and in a sensible way, we this too will pass.
Of course, and I'm thinking that this is what was meant by them saying WHO. They would have said that every country must tailor their response based on how the virus is affecting them at that specific time. And I want to believe that that's what they meant, because it's never going to affect one place the same way. It's never going to affect two places the same way. So every country must tailor their response based on that. Now we're going to open the line for some calls, because I know some people are awaiting that. The number to call is 440-7377 if you want to call locally. If you're in the diaspora and you want to contribute, you can call 347-329-3101. Now I do also want to talk about the interferon that Cuba had manufactured and have been have tested. Do we have any updates on how that is doing in response to the virus?
I don't myself. I'm getting, like all the treatments, I'm getting mixed opinions about it. There are some who are saying that it is very, very useful. Others are saying no, not quite so. But more especially, what is for sure is that some of these interferon compounds can also have quite a bit of side effects. I'm not absolutely sure for this one, but none of the compounds out there presently seem to be thing. But yes, the Cuba, and I have the greatest, I should say this, the greatest of respect, and I really would like to appeal to people to always be pleasant and caring and towards the Cuban folk who come here to serve, because it is the only country that I know of that has, up front, has taken it. Its people have gone over throughout Africa during the Ebola crisis. This is the more recent time. They've just gone to Italy. They've sent out folk here to help work in our intensive care settings who have experience in that setting. And whilst on that note, whilst we're really commending the Cubans for really leading the world in this type of humanitarian spirit, and this against a background where there's this tremendous pressure that is being brought to bear on their economy, and nevertheless they've still find the resolve and the resources to be able to help the rest of the world, and anything that we can do to and especially when normality resumes to be of some assistance to Cuba, we need to step up now and start to think about that. What can we do to return? Because it's not just now that Cuba has been making an impact in our society.
Yes.
I shudder to think what would happen with our health system if it were not for Cuba.
Yeah, they have been in almost every epidemic that I have experienced or have been alive to experience or to hear about. They have been leading the humanitarian effort in those regards. They really are doing a wonderful job. And I mean, sometimes we take for granted, after everything is settled and the dust has settled and everybody returns to normality, we tend to forget, and to be grateful for those people that have risked a lot to help us out. We do have our first caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, my dear darling. How are you?
Good morning, Miss Jacob. How are you?
I'm fine. And good morning to my beautiful doctor on the side. Good morning, darling.
Morning there. How you do?
I'm all right. Well, this kind of virus are going wrong there. When I had 12 years, that was you call that in the 1960-something. Yeah, 1960-something, because I born in 1947. 1947 to get 1950-something is about 12 years. Well, I had 12 years, that kind of virus started going wrong. My brother, my aunt, my grandmother, tooth, moon, bagay, everybody had to get a test. Everybody had to get an injection. Papa, He had a big person in front of me. That person had about 40 years. When they get the injection, oh God, they take the ground, they start to ball. Poor me, how many 12 years and a day, 4 person behind by I ball. He had 4 person come to hold me. Well, he had a big, strapping man. He picked me up from on the ground. And you know, as when you have a little baby shaking you, and he bring me in front of the doctor. That was Dr. I can't remember the doctor name now. I can't, but before I finish, I go remember the doctor name. But when I reach the doctor give me, touch my little head, he play with my little face. He say, oh God, baby, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. It was so bad. Don't mind the big person that was in front of you. They get on, but he wasn't so bad with you. And he said, when you get that injection, you will be there for 100 years. And I still had the mark on my shoulder, you know. The other day I showed somebody
Right,
the
so
mark on my shoulder.
we glad, Miss Jacobs, we looking forward to you moving up to that century. Just do the right things to
Yes,
protect
I do the right
yourself.
thing.
To protect yourself, stay indoors as much as possible. Avoid any groups.
Sure.
Avoid any group activities. Well, we know
Yes.
churches are closed. And get-togethers with your families, family
Yes.
and things like that. Right.
But I alone in my home.
Well, that's
I
good.
alone
So you just
in
go
my
get your any little things you need to do. Get them, get back home as quickly as possible, and if possible, get them close to your community, from your community shop, so you don't have to get on transports, although the transports now are being limited in terms of the number of people they are carrying, but the less interaction you have with people, the better for you.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank
So,
you.
well, you have a wonderful day. You have a nice program, and we have to enjoy it. And then today, they give a day of praise when 12 o'clock. They ask everybody to Moonbagay when 12 o'clock. You have a day of
Okay.
praise.
A day of prayer. I didn't know that. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, sweetheart. Love you. Bye-bye.
Same.
Right.
Bye.
All right. Well, that's really the first I'm hearing of that too. But if that is the case, I mean, we shouldn't need a day of prayer. We should be right now pleading in intercession with God, asking Him to be merciful on not just Grenada, but the world at large. But I didn't. If anybody has that information, they can feel free to send it across so I can announce it. We do have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning, Ms. Jacob, and good morning to Doctor.
Miss Duncan.
I have, hear me, Ms. Jacob. Well, I give Ms. Jacob a good morning. Well, anyhow, she gets it already.
Yes.
Ms. Duncan. Yes. Doc, good morning to you.
Morning, sir.
I have a question. I'm not sure, okay, if it's valid. So, because of the behavior of the virus, now, we know that there are monitoring systems on the airport, and they're looking for a certain temperature. But it seems to me worldwide that the temperature is not, and I could be wrong, is not really what is important in terms of persons, as you know, would not exhibit like the high fever and stuff. In that case, is there anything additional that the task force is looking into? I mean, I know the airport is closed down now, so I don't expect anybody coming in. But in relation to the fever, is there any other things that you guys are looking into?
Yeah.
I mean, I know there is a lot of broad things that were said, but I'm speaking in specifically with that temperature reading.
Yeah. Well,
how valuable it is
at
this point.
Temperature is still, it is a feature that most people are developing some measure of raised temperature, either moderately raised or high temperature, like 100 203 degrees Fahrenheit. So temperature is definitely a feature. Temperature and cough are the two of the early features. If you feel weak, you get cough, a dry cough, not a wet cough necessarily, a dry cough and temperature.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are getting the whole range of other symptoms. People are getting headaches. Headaches are something I see prominently coming through. And some people are even showing gut symptoms. And by that I mean things like abdominal pains, especially upper abdominal pains. Upper part of your belly, you're getting pain there, feeling to vomit or vomiting, and diarrhea, small, not marked diarrhea, but some diarrhea. These are features that a number of people are developing. When people go on to get short of breath, if you get any fever and cough, you start to feel short of breath, you get up, and what you can normally walk around do, you can't do again. You call that hotline straight away, and inform them of what is happening, and bit by bit we will get that hotline up to ideal speed, where immediately you can be routed where you need to go. Do not go up to your doctor. Do not go up to the health center. It's very important, because if you go up to the health center, there are a number of people in there who have other issues. There are people who might have chronic problems, and you would risk it. You go up to casualty, you risk infecting all the doctors. So no, do not go up there. But you can be routed directly where you will be assessed and treated. But the point the gentleman also raised was the question of at the airports. And yes, he's right in that, we did not pick up a single person coming in whose temperature led us to feel that there were the person who we picked up passed through the airport, their temperature would be monitored. At that particular time, the temperature would have been normal, so they go home, and then they develop symptoms subsequently and had to go up to their doctor. So it is not it's the only tool you can use easily, other than asking people where they've been, asking them about the complaints that they have. That's an important leg of the other tool. And that's why you saw in more recent weeks, we were saying to people, if you came in from certain hot zones, go straight, and you're not supposed to leave your house for 2 weeks, right? And bit by bit, those countries extended. At first, it was just mainly countries in the Far East, but we were actually quarantining them, because there were the few people who came through from China, etc., and South Korea and Japan. We were quarantining them. But then when it started to spread to Europe, that is, we had those folk watching them, and none of those folk in the early days turned to be positive. But then now this thing became global. When it became a pandemic, you can't quarantine everybody by aircraft bringing over nearly 200 people, and you got 3 of them in a day. Where you going to start to quarantine? And you multiply that. And plus the 900 people I saw perhaps a day passing through the airport some days. You multiply that by 5, you got nearly 5,000 people in short order. Where you going to quarantine them in less than a week? So what you had to do is rely on the questionnaire, rely on people's good judgment, and then ultimately, you see, what we have tried to do from the subcommittee level is monitor very carefully what was happening, and then go back to cabinet, go back to the Prime Minister and say, look, we based on the trend we are seeing now, we need to go this additional step, right? And that is what we have done progressively, so until we reach this point now where we said, well, first a few days ago, from Monday, planes coming in here should only largely be bringing in, mostly be bringing, they're coming in empty. And some people, especially Canadians and whatnot, they had a flight that left, and I saw it on the news, I didn't even know that, but there's no problem with the plane coming in empty to take out people.
Right. Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because yesterday there was a frenzy, and people were, of course, saying that I'm absolutely certain a plane from Canada came and dropped people off, and that's one of the things that we really have to try to avoid.
Yeah.
These rumor mongers.
Mongering. Well, I it wasn't brought to our attention in the subcommittee, or if it was, I probably wasn't there at that time. But listening to the report on one of the major networks last night, it said clearly that these were this arrangement was made for Canadians who want. The Canadian government had requested this arrangement, so any government can request arrangement to get its nationals out, right? And the plane comes in empty and it leaves, and that's no problem.
Right.
That's not an issue at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought up the issue of
and they don't put people at risk. The folk who come in, they probably are going to a particular zone. I'm not sure the arrangement. I'm talking about the pilots, etc. Wells, if they have to, from a international point of view, in terms of an hour break or half-hour break, which is what the break you would normally take. I'm not sure in that detail, but for sure people are not disembarking. But there was one case in which a person disembarked, and that person was a medical doctor.
Right.
Who was agreed to come in and work in the system. And whilst on that note, let me say that, first of all, send out a word of special commendation to my fellow colleagues. One of my colleagues who would have been the person who sensed that this person with the index case was positive, immediately notified the ministry. The ministry team then in turn went out quickly, assessed the person, decided yes, we had to take swabs from the person, got them down to Carriacou, so that the chance of the person had circulated a little bit in the community before that, but once that person went up to the doctor, that doctor was able to identify that person as being highly at risk of getting the virus, and pass that information on. So to that doctor and all the doctors in the Ministry of Health, that entire team, and the work of the epidemiologists and the nurses, the public health nurses, play a critical role in all the districts now in terms of monitoring what was happening and helping us to keep on top of it.
Yeah.
The environmental health officers also will be in the whole mix of things to play critical roles to help to ensure that the proper habits are being maintained, because this thing is about a team effort, and I'm seeing that in the ministry we've been able to get it, and it's not only a team effort from Ministry of Health point of view. It's got to involve social welfare. It's got to involve finance. The financiers, the people in Ministry of Finance, they've been working overtime to come up with new plans. I mean, the whole original budget, I guess, that's almost tossed out through the window. That's my saying. That's not government saying. But I would figure, I mean, it's a totally new look at the whole finances of the country. So when I say toss out, I mean, of course, they budgeted certain things, and they can opt within those ranges.
But of course, it must be tailored.
But the whole thing is going to would have been turned so topsy-turvy because of this. And so you got the people in finance, you got the security forces. The security forces have to be called back out.
Well,
right?
I was speaking
You
to
have
a
your
police.
immigration folk who have been repeatedly there on the forefront. And I'm sure the others, your ambulance force, your hospital teams, your hospital teams, and in that respect, I appeal to my colleagues in the hospital to volunteer and come forward, because anyone can go down at any time with it. So if you have no underlying complaints, be it you're a nurse, be it you're a doctor, etc., you should be prepared to go in front. Of course, they have a right to insist that they're properly protected. And we do have some protective gear. We're working very, very actively to try to get in more protective gear. Extremely, extremely difficult. But we certainly have enough to keep us going for some days.
I was speaking to my friend, a police officer this morning, and he was saying to me that They have to work for 21 days. They have no day off, no vacation, no nothing. It's really a sacrifice that every single person
has to make,
make
in some form or fashion. In some form or fashion, everybody has to. So people who are creating their own stories to create mischief, they need to cease and desist.
Yep.
Cease and desist from that, because they don't know when their family member or they themselves might be exposed to it. And if you're running down and telling lies about things that you know are not true and creating stories, you're going to turn the same people you're creating these stories about are the people you have to turn around and who are look after you with,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's true.
Good. So just a word to the wise.
A word to the wise. It's really important for us to understand that we will, at this point, it's a tough pill to swallow, but it's the truth. We will never really be in the clay as it relates to the coronavirus
until we get vaccination.
A vaccine is created. And still we will have individuals out there who will refuse to be vaccinated. We will have that, because even now we still have people who the basic vaccines they don't want to take. So we will never really be in the clay. But it is in this time that, as my mother would always say, that we will see what matter man is made of.
That's right. Absolutely. No. You're right. Yeah. It tests the metal of people.
Yeah.
It tests your emotional strength. It tests your survivability. It tests your ability to, deal with unusual and think your way through situations. The one good thing about this is that, unlike some natural disasters, it didn't come on us all of a sudden. We had time to think and plan for it. We had many months. Well, I know the majority of the population would not have been sensitized as to what was going on. But we certainly in more recent weeks have been trying to tell people repeatedly, look, these are serious issues ahead. Start to get good, inform yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Because we might not have a time to chat about it this morning, but there are a lot of measures. If we start to get transmission in the community, there will probably be other measures that people will have to be considering.
But maybe you can name a few, because we have about 15 more minutes. And
we haven't reached there yet. If you have a call, I take the call.
Yeah, let's take the call first.
Yeah.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Yes, I'm just joining the program. Do you have a specific topic this morning?
Yes, we're sitting with Dr. Braffett.
I didn't hear you.
Yes, we're sitting with Dr. Bert Braffett, and we're speaking about the coronavirus, the preparedness, social distancing, quarantining, the cases, a wide number of things.
Okay. Okay, sorry. So my contribution is that I just want to continue to appeal to our people to be responsible, because I keep hearing the blame game, and every time I hear it, it sort of a bit upsets me, because, the government could do as much, and I believe at this point the government is doing as much as it can do. And as Minister Steele was saying, this thing is like a moving target. In other words, so every time you get new information, you would provide it to the population, right? To the population, inform us as to the do and don'ts and everything like that. But people tend to believe that somebody is hiding something, the authorities are hiding it. And I mean, it's hard to understand. And in addition to that, some of the people who host programs, they are equally negative. And some of these people who I believe should be able to try to persuade the people, speak to the people, and ask them to follow the instructions as directed by the Ministry of Health and the government, right, and so on, and the other international creditable or authentic organizations. They are not doing that. But last night, I was sort of, how should I put it? I felt a bit relieved when, on another radio program, the host had two guests online calling from the homes, from the relative place of dwelling. And it was Dr. Patrick Antoine from Trinidad, and I think the lady, Mrs. Rippey, I think she was here in Grenada. And I was happy with the positive line that they pursued despite they were trying to being persuaded, swayed into getting into the negative. But they were very, very positive, and that is the kind of positivity I want to see continuing. Instead of having people panicking and living in fear and so on. But I must also say that there are some of our people who delight in the old talk, in the sexy and sensational news, and spread this kind of news. The things that they should be sharing and spreading, they don't know that at all. In addition to that, so for example, the host raised the whole question about the emergency stimulus package, right? And Dr. Antoine more or less dissected it, and he explained that it was a good move and what have you and so on. Although he was saying that he did not get the details as to how those things are going to be implemented, right? And the other lady, I didn't know her speciality, but I want to believe that, I don't know if she's a psychologist or something. But I really commended her. You know, she was very, very positive all along. And even if the host was trying to bring in this sort of negativity, the negative aspect of it, she remained on a positive line. So did Dr. Antoine for most part of it. So my appeal is to our people to take responsibility. We cannot expect the government to be responsible for everything. The government, as all other governments, would be responsible for certain things. And we are responsible for other things. And we have to live up to our responsibility. And too often, on a daily basis, I have been hearing people blaming the government left, right, and center for just about everything. The last thing is that people want them to disclose the areas, the people who are conformed with the COVID-19, the areas, the parish, or they want to know the quarantine areas and such things. And how helpful would that be? And they're saying they need to know, because if they know, they would be able to take better precautions and to protect themselves. But to me, I'm a Grenadian. I'm not naturalized. I'm born Grenadian. And that's just old talk. Even they know, it's just that you say, okay, so it's not in my area, so more people will be going out in other areas. Because I traveled from St. Patrick's to Grenville yesterday, and I still saw a few places were open, a few people gathered together, they were drinking, they were having a good time, and so on. So, so that's my contribution.
Thank you so much.
Very, very, very positive words. I don't think there's much I can add to that. I mean, he was bang on. He's obviously thought about this situation and analysed it, and he's giving good guidance.
Of course, there's something though that I want to just quickly speak about. The stimulus package. I know that a lot of people, and it's so disappointing, but we'll have our people that have been taking time to poke holes in the stimulus package, making comments along the lines of, oh, look, this country has this amount of millions, and we have this amount of millions, and so on. And to me, I see it as it is not the end of the road, meaning that we are in this for the long haul. Now, if we go to make decisions on the part of putting all of the resources that we have into 3 months, and this thing stretches way past 3 months, what will happen then?
Yeah. And already people have to realize, look, one of the first things that happened, I didn't even realize it until I talked to a good friend of mine who's a fisherman, and he said to me he wasn't going out. I said, how come you mean you're not going out? I thought, no, more than ever. I said, even before, from about 2 weeks ago, before things started to ramp up in the United States, the demands for fish, because they send out the best grade fish to the United States, the demands for fish in the United States dropped dramatically. Right. And hence you had this glut on the market where you could have got tuna for $4 and all of that a pound, right? And some of the fishermen have tied up their boats because they're going into the deeper parts of the water, and that's where they really make their living. And that market is gone in the short term, right? And until the United States recover, and we see what's happening. Yeah. We haven't seen the worst in the United States yet.
And they're actually leading in the world right now. In
terms of number of cases.
They've passed,
in terms of deaths, it is going to get pretty bad. So what I would say to people, that all of these things have, every time there's a shipment of things out from here, that's money going into the economy, that's money going into individuals' pocket. So there is no doubt, and I'm speaking personally now, there's no doubt that, in my opinion, that the world is going to go into a recession, and indeed, in fact, some people say more than a recession, but it's certainly going to go into recession just about every nation.
Every nation.
Just about, because even the nations that were not there, if they manage to survive, they're going to be impacted in some other way in terms of getting materials for what they need to get done. They can't get those materials if they have industries, heavy high-level manufacturing. You might be able to get raw materials,
Right,
and
right.
on. So this thing has, it's not just a ripple effect.
Yeah.
It's a wave effect
Yeah.
that is going to go right around. But one of the things, going back to the local scene, I want to point out, I heard last night some of the vendors talking about the produce they brought up from bought, and obviously much of it might is perishable, and they weren't able to get to sell it. Just let me reassure them that a lot of thought is being given to their particular situation vis-a-vis with respect to any stuff that they have had that might be perishable, and I anticipate that there will be definite consideration given to this to the vendors in that situation. Those are decisions that are going to be made by government,
Right.
but I know from the trend of discussion that government is clearly going to want to be is understanding of the situation, is sympathetic towards the situation, and is going to be wanting to do something to limit the impact that they would have suffered in terms of loss from materials.
Well, I'm just thinking here, wouldn't it be a good time now for them to consider? I mean, there's less movement of people in general, outside of their communities and outside of really their yards, right? Wouldn't it be an opportunity now for these people to go around to the different communities and get their produce sold that way?
Certainly would, to a large extent, reduce the gathering of people that will be around their stalls, etc.
Right.
And people have to look for creative ways.
Yes.
Creative ways to get around it. Perhaps people might have to come to them.
Yeah.
In their communities to
Yeah.
get hold of produce that they can't plant themselves, etc.
Yeah.
But of course, a lot of the stuff that they provide, people in the more rural communities might be providing for themselves.
Right.
So but you're right. The people have got to think outside of the box,
they do.
but within the restrictions. We say people cannot gather to be more than 6 feet away from each other, and that message we need to ramp it up, because if we start to get significant circulation, there will be more restrictions almost certainly will follow,
Right.
in terms of people's movements.
Right.
Right. So that's something people have to be aware of.
Right,
Yeah.
because and when I'm thinking about the because it's been on my mind, the people who are in the market with their stalls selling their produce, and if we are being encouraged to consume more local, more of our local fruits and vegetables, the access to those fruits and vegetables, of course, must be made available as well. Now, I won't encourage them to sell them to supermarkets and so on, because then now you're encouraging people to actually gather at supermarkets to get access to that.
Yeah, but there are one or two of the biggest supermarkets that I observed yesterday, and there was social distancing. I was at one supermarket, and the line was about 80 meters long, right? And another one, well, it was shorter. Yeah, so they are observing it. They have security there that are not allowing more than a certain number of people in the store, and you have to queue up to get in, and depending on the time, if you get there at a low activity time, you might be able to quickly get in. Other times, it might be quite a line.
I remember as a young child growing up, on a Saturday, you'd see the van loaded with fruits and vegetables and so on passing through the community, and people would have an opportunity to purchase. We don't see as much, and I live in Mount Morris, and I don't see as much of that happening anymore.
I know of people who mainly going to the grandaunts and frequenters side who make, I believe, a reasonable living out of doing that.
But of course.
But what you will find happening is the person might stop to sell some stuff, and if you're going to have a congregation of people around, it's the same story.
And that's
right?
where personal
And actually,
responsibility comes in.
as the law states it right now, they're not supposed to be doing it.
Right.
Right, as it states it right now. So one of the things people must recognize is that when you write a law for something, a situation like this, which you never had before, you're going to have to go back through certain aspects of it.
And tweak it. Yeah.
That's right, and tweak it.
Yeah.
And tweak it. I think the feedback I've heard, even from lawyers and other people, is that, they consider it is a pretty good start. But be conscious of the fact that in any regulation like that, you have to go back. There's going to be a group that you might forget there, or something that you have to tighten up. That's right, tighten up more, etc.
Yeah, but I mean, it is a good thought, but also it goes back to the point, and we're quickly running out of time. But it goes back to the point that there must be personal responsibility. You yourself must ensure that you keep your person safe. That you keep your person secure. So if you're in a line and you find that somebody is too close to you, then it is your responsibility to say, listen, you're a little bit too close. But even the person who is also gaining, coming into your space, into your personal bubble, they must also identify, listen, I'm too close, because I wouldn't like somebody to be that close to my personal space. So personal responsibility is absolutely something that we have to consider in this time. It's really the only solution in this time, or the most important solution in this time, for us to be personally responsible. Follow the rules, follow the laws, follow the procedures that have been, and the policies that have been put in place to protect us, not to restrict us, not to hold us down or to hold us back, but to protect us.
That's right.
And do you have any closing, because we're quickly running out of time, but
no,
do you have any
I
closing
just
remarks?
encourage folk to follow the guidelines, listen carefully to what government is saying and what is coming up from the various official channels, and not to the social media and other people who are trying to, who may occasionally be trying to create unease and sort of confusing the situation, and to reassure people that yes, it's going to be a tough time for everyone. It's going to be a different way of living for a while, and when we come out of it, we might well be changed. A number of things we have done forever, for all you know. And generations before us went through it, and they bounced back, and we too shall do that. I'm confident. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, guys, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. As I always say, in whatever you say and whatever you do, be safe, be secure. I always want to be talking to and with you, and never about you. Enjoy the remainder of your day.
Jerry, why government trying to change laws and regulations relating to the electricity sector?
Susan, do you know that the government sold majority shares in the then government-owned electricity company?
You serious? Grenada was owned by government? So how much they sold the company for?
The NDC administration in 1994 sold 50% of the shares to an American company for $15 million.
$15 million? You call that sell? That was a giveaway, man.
Well, I'm happy someone like you said that.
So, what the NNP government trying to do now?
Susan, the main reason the government is trying to change the law is to ensure that ordinary Grenadians like you pay less for electricity. Do you remember when we used to pay more than $2 per minute for some telephone calls? Well, today we pay as little as 30 cents per minute for local calls. That's because the NNP administration took the bold decision back then to change the law and open up the telecoms market.
Boy, I remember how much I fought against that. The thing is, I never trusted that plan. But now I see the benefits. I can even talk to Tom, Dick, and Harry for free. I mean, Jane, Jill, and Mary.
Well, I'm not concerned about who you talk to. But more importantly, Susan, how much was your last electricity bill?
Don't go there. I was just disconnected. I can't even afford it.
That's why the government is trying so hard to find a way to reduce the cost of electricity in Grenada. We have the highest rates in the region.
The following is a message from the Alliance of Evangelical Churches, Grenada.
Fellow citizens of Grenada, greetings in the precious name of Jesus. I'm Marcus Christopher, a servant of God. I'm here today in my capacity as the Public Relations Officer of the Alliance of Evangelical Churches, the AEC. The AEC, led by our dynamic president, Pastor Devon Rache, recognizes and have been playing our role in our nation, particularly at this time when we are all facing the challenges of dealing with the pandemic caused by the novel coronavirus, COVID-19. We continue to encourage our member churches and the general public to obey the guidelines given by our government and authorized health officials. We implore everyone to obey the law as it relates to the declared limited state of emergency, the call for social distancing, and to employ the given hygienic practices. COVID-19 is a great concern to all of us here in Grenada and the rest of the world, as this virus, which cannot be seen, brings almost everyone in every corner of the world to a halt. Grenada is among the many nations with few of the resources needed to cope with this coronavirus pandemic. Therefore, we need to pray more than ever before. The world is filled with fear and anxiety right now, as people struggle to make sense of the potential threats to their physical and economic well-being. The followers of Jesus Christ have an opportunity to shine as bright stars as we respond in the power of the Holy Spirit, living and serving in perfect peace. Plans are being discussed for a national day of prayer. As soon as these plans are confirmed and communicated, we urge everyone to actively participate, particularly members of the church, which is the body of Christ. The World Evangelical Alliance, WEA, of which the Alliance of Evangelical Churches, Grenada, is an affiliate, is calling churches and individual believers to observe this coming Sunday, March 29th, as a global day of prayer and fasting. The theme, Lord Help, is inspired by Psalm 107, where the people of Israel cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he delivered them. In regards to this global call to prayer and fast, the Alliance of Evangelical Churches, Grenada, is planning to hold a virtual corporate prayer meeting at 5 p.m. on Sunday, please God, with God's servants here in our nation, using the Zoom platform. We are looking into the possibility of having this session live streamed on Facebook Live. In addition, the AEC is planning a town hall type meeting on TV where pastors can offer hope to the nation of Grenada. This is planned for Saturday the 4th of April. We intend to have this program live so that viewers can comment and ask questions to be answered by the participating pastors. Finally, let us join our hearts in prayer, in faith and hope for God's grace and mercy in the midst of this coronavirus pandemic. We are all in this together. Let us replace fear with faith. May the peace of God, which passes all understanding, be with us all now and always.
The preceding was a message from the Alliance of Evangelical Churches, Grenada.
Grenada records 6 new cases of COVID-19. We'll have details to this story and more in the national report. With the details to the news for Thursday, March 26, 2020, I am Rikisha St. Louis. The Ministry of Health says Grenada has recorded 6 new confirmed cases of COVID-19, bringing the total now to 7. Health Minister Honorable Nicholas Steele says the 6 cases are all linked to the first case that was recorded on Sunday. The cases were confirmed following a series of contact tracing done by health officials. Among them are 1 male and 5 females. Minister Steele says the patients are in isolation and under close observation.
Grenada records 6 other laboratory-confirmed cases of COVID-19. Among the 6 cases are persons who came in some form of contact with our first recorded case that we announced on Sunday. The 6 new cases are in isolation and are being monitored by health officials. The ministry continues with aggressive contact tracing in an effort to ascertain and mitigate further spread of the virus. I also must report that at least 1 of these new cases is imported and was on the same flight within a 6-foot radius of patient 0, our original case. The other cases are from the same household as patient 0. Again, I assure you that our medical team has been actively following up and engaged in contact tracing and are already moving to isolate and monitor several others who were in close contact with any of these new cases. This will continue for the next 14 days at least.
He updated the public on measures that were implemented since the island confirmed its first case on Sunday.
Patient 0 was hospitalized earlier this week, but is now again stable, and her symptoms are back to being mild to moderate. I also report that in the aftermath of learning of our first confirmed case, healthcare officials had moved days ago to isolate other members of the household to ensure that any potential for further spreading was minimized. We have already reported these 6 new cases to the World Health Organization and Pan American Health Organization.
Acting Chief Medical Officer Dr. Francis Martin says the ministry is concerned about complacency by individuals in maintaining social distancing guidelines. He cautioned that now is the time to prevent the further spread of the virus.
Observe the guidelines of social distancing to avoid community transmission. Every time I speak to someone, every time someone sends a text to me, I encourage them and support them in trying to limit or stop social community transmission. I am still getting complaints, I'm still getting reports of crammed buses and people still trying to congregate in certain places. I am going to work together with all the team members to ensure that over the coming days we do what we all need to do as a nation to stop the gatherings and stop persons from becoming too much more than 2 persons within people's personal spaces. So this is a call to everyone that while the cases are still imported cases, we still have a personal responsibility and a national responsibility to stop community transmission.
The Royal Grenada Police Force has strengthened manpower to boost security throughout Grenada in the face of rising confirmed COVID-19 cases. Commissioner of Police Edwin Martin says there are still reports of social gatherings, and he pointed out that some bus operators are not adhering to the outlined social distancing protocols. The statutory rules and orders number 13 of 2020 states that those who fail to comply with the regulations shall be guilty of an offense and on summary conviction are liable to a fine of $1,000 and to imprisonment for 12 months.
Start taking this situation seriously if you have not yet done so. We all just learned of additional cases in Grenada. And I am very concerned about the continued laissez-faire and casual attitude of some individuals in implementing the required action to ensure their own safety and the safety of others. I directed our officers to be firm in addressing this matter. Consequently, one person has been arrested for overloading his bus, and this action will be intensified.
Speaking to members of the media via online platform Zoom on Thursday, Commissioner Martin said the boost in personnel is just one of the measures implemented by the police force during this period.
At midday today, we completed the full mobilization of the RGPF with all persons who has been on leave, and therefore you will see a further strengthening of our enforcement measures as going forward. We are also leveraging national resources to provide us with vehicles and other resources to be able to effectively implement our national security strategy. 3, we have initiated an operational command center at the police headquarters to enhance implementation and coordination. We have also had the establishment of a subcommittee to review special requests for permission for businesses as well as persons traveling within curfew hours.
ACP Jesmond Prince explained that the access pass is for the curfew and will only be obtained with a valid reason.
The pass is only necessary when the curfew is in place. Okay, so you do not need a pass between the hours of 5 in the morning to 7 in the evening. Right? A pass will only be needed from 7 in the evening to 5 in the morning. And if you are not going to be involved in any business during that period of time, then there is no need for you to apply for a pass. So please, it's quite a lot of applications that are coming in. There is no need, if you know that you're not going to be operating within that time, there is no need to apply for a pass, as the case might be with a lot of you who are applying.
This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break.
COVID-19 spreads from person to person through the droplets that are produced when someone coughs or sneezes, which makes it easy to spread between people in close contact. Now let's get prepared to stay healthy. To reduce your chance of catching or spreading COVID-19, practice these simple everyday preventative measures. Droplets can also land on surfaces, so ensure that you wash your hands frequently for a minimum of 20 seconds or sing the happy birthday song twice. Avoid touching your face, especially your eyes, nose, and mouth. If soap and water are not readily available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with an alcohol content between 60 and 90%. 70% is ideal. When you cough or sneeze, cover your nose and mouth with a flexed elbow or a tissue. Dispose of the tissue immediately and then wash your hands. If you notice someone has a fever and cough or other symptoms of respiratory illness, avoid close contact when possible. Let's all do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. Our health is our collective responsibility.
Welcome back. The Ministry of Education on Wednesday launched 2 online learning and virtual platforms for students from preschool to 5th form. Chrisanne Mitchell tells us more about the MSTAR and Spice Math initiatives.
MSTAR LSP is the institutional platform for all 210 Government of Grenada schools. It comes with digital courses and resources that follow the CXC-approved curriculum. The courses include CXC syllabi and past papers to assist students in exam preparation in the same format that they will be tested. MSTAR LSP and Spice Math are being implemented at a time when teachers and students are making full use of ICT due to the closure of schools as a result of the threat of COVID-19. These add to the variety of online platforms now available for remote learning. Education Minister Honorable Emlyn Pear says teaching and learning have quickly evolved in Grenada. The ministry, she says, was forced to expedite the process of implementing e-learning due to the current challenges of the COVID-19. Principals and teachers have already been trained to use the MSTAR platform. According to Minister Pear, top math tutors will collaborate to make learning mathematics fun virtually from grade 5 to 5th form in the first instance.
This would not just benefit students in school, but many students who are attempting to do math privately for external examinations. The objective is not just to provide lessons to our students during this critical time, but it is also a strategy to improve students' performance in the area of mathematics. The statistics shows that we have seriously underperformed in this area for many years. Spice Math would be accessible as a link on our MSTAR platform, as well as through other mediums such as GIS TV, the Ministry of Education Facebook page. Spice Math would target math students from grade 5 to Form 5 in this first phase of the project. Later on, we hope to add versions of other subjects such as English.
Chief Education Officer Angela Finley highlighted the importance and timeliness of the platforms in the midst of the coronavirus COVID-19.
Both the Spice Math initiative and the MSTAR Learning Support Platform, the MSTAR LSP, are indicative of that trajectory of our ministry, a commitment to embrace all aspects of ICT integration to support better student outcomes. Today's event comes at a time when the entire world is reeling from the effects of COVID-19. And now more than ever before, persons are acknowledging the important role that information technology can play in enhancing the quality of our lives.
District Education Officer Kathy Ann James says the MSTAR LSP virtual session is easy to navigate and user-friendly.
The program will allow users to interact with the resources and receive interactive feedback and track individual student development. Furthermore, it provides study breaks using interactive games, a typing tutorial, which is an added asset for students and teachers to develop and improve on their typing skills. This platform serves as a virtual radar system which would provide valuable information to parents about their child's activities and progress at school, and at the same time provides a real-time digital view of the school to the school administration.
That story just ended the national report for today, Thursday, March 26th. Let's recap the top story. Grenada records 6 new cases of COVID-19. On behalf of the entire news team here at the Government Information Service, I am Rikisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
Jerry, why government trying to change laws and regulations relating to the electricity sector?
Suzanne, do you know that the government sold majority shares in the then government-owned electricity company?
You serious? Grenlec was owned by government? So how much they sold the company for?
The NDC administration in 1994 sold 50% of the shares to an American company for $15 million.
15 million? You call that sell? That was a giveaway, man.
Well, I'm happy someone like you said that.
So, what the NNP government trying to do now?
Suzanne, the main reason the government is trying to change the law is to ensure that ordinary Grenadians like you pay less for electricity. Do you remember when we used to pay more than $2 per minute for some telephone calls? Well, today we pay as little as 30 cents per minute for local calls. That's because the NNP administration took the bold decision back then to change the law and open up the telecoms market.
Boy, I remember how much I fought against that. The thing is, I never trusted that plan. But now I seen the benefits. I can even talk to Tom, Dick, and Harry for free. I mean, Jane, Jill, and Mary.
Well, I'm not concerned about who you talk to. But more importantly, Suzanne, how much was your last electricity bill?
Don't go there. I was just disconnected. I can't even afford it.
That's why the government is trying so hard to find a way to reduce the cost of electricity in Grenada. We have the highest rates in the region.